So we've had a lot of questions on how to protect yourself from a probate fraud scam. So if you are in a family or part of um, even an extended family where somebody has died and there's assets to be distributed, how do you make sure that some of the relatives or heirs aren't going to take more than their fair share, or maybe some people that weren't supposed to get anything take money from the estate? This is the most common type of fraud we're seeing in our agency in the last 18 to 24 months. People within a family are stealing money from each other when a person is deceased, even before they're deceased. If somebody's sick, they're in hospice, they're going to start diverting assets and conveying assets back and forth. Sometimes relatives will even put a older person into conservatorship so they can start stealing their assets, which is tragic. So how do you protect yourself? Well, first make sure that there is an appointed assigned trustee for any estate. Don't leave it up to the family or just multiple people to do this. Have somebody appointed, established in writing as a trustee. Make sure that person is bonded. Make sure they get a surety bond. It only costs a few $100s. You can get a link below to a surety bond company that we recommend. It's called probonds.com, and they can bond a trustee. Also, during the course of the time where these assets are being distributed, make sure you get regular updates at least once a month on what's going on with the assets. If there's bank accounts, if there's real estate, if there's vehicles, if there's stocks, make sure that whoever the trustee is has a reporting system to give monthly updates about what's going on with these assets. The biggest problem we see is a year or two goes by and all of a sudden nobody knows what happened to the assets because there was no following the flow of funds, following the tracing of assets during that time. It's very difficult to go back and recreate all that. Make sure you're regular reporting. Don't be shy about asking your relatives about what's going on with the assets. You're not being rude. They're being rude if they're not giving you updates. If they're in charge and handling the money and they're trying to hide it from you, that's being rude. And they're going to use your kindness and intimidation and bullying of you to try to keep you from finding out what's going on with these assets. Here's the problem. The economy is bad. Inflation is up. The younger generations don't have the same privileges and advantages that older people do, baby boomers did. So they're grasping at straws. They're struggling. They're panicking about how am I going to survive financially? How am I going to be able to afford retirement? How am I going to be able to pay my bills? And the only place they know that there's any money that they can get to. Your video will be back in 8 seconds. In the meantime, remember, you have access to live one-on-one consultation, undivided attention of a licensed certified expert in this subject and many others. We want to listen to your story. We want to hear your questions and give you expert advisement of your options. We want to tell you what we know about your situation and what options you have. Now back to your video. Is older relatives. So they're doing everything they can to try to strip those assets out from the relatives. And especially if one relative is poorer than the other, they might say, well, my brother-in-law and my sister are better well off than me, so I deserve more money from this estate, so I'm taking it. And it's terrible. Remember, if the person who's dying or has died has very specific instructions of what to do with their assets, if those instructions or wishes are not adhered to, if they're violated, that's not honoring their wishes, and that's a relative that you should be honoring. If you decide you get money and then you want to give it to another relative, that's fine. That's your prerogative. That's your choice. But don't let the relatives just take it without proper authority. Probate fraud is rampant. Almost every single case we look at has fraud in it. Even something as small as, grandpa's old Camaro that was in the barn that nobody knew about, somebody took it and sold it on eBay. Make sure you do a full asset search, and you can get information about that from our website, activeintel.com. Make sure that you get a full accounting of any assets owned by the person. You can also use our website to do consultation. If you'd like to book a live one-on-one video consultation with a licensed investigator, you can do that on the website. It's usually me. If a person has been put into conservatorship, find out who the beneficiary is. Find out who benefits from this, who gains, who's in control of the money. Check for life insurance policies. Check for pensions, retirement. Check for assets that have been switched over recently. Even if the person died this week, go back 6 to 8 months to see, was their house quitclaimed to somebody else? Because when somebody's dying, usually they know about it. They know that they're sick and they might die within a year. And sometimes relatives will jump the gun a little bit and start shifting stuff around. And they're going to lie to you. They're going to hide records from you. They're going to gaslight you with information. And they may have other relatives in on it with them. Sometimes there's two sides of the family. One that's taking the money, one that's getting ripped off. You don't want to let it slide. Take advantage of resources you have to get to the bottom of it so that the assets go where they're supposed to go. And like I said, if you decide later you want to give some away to somebody, you can do that. But don't let them do it on their own, because that's going to set a bad precedent that they can mistreat you and lie to you anytime they want. And in the future, if there's another situation that comes up with maybe another relative or just something in general, they know, hey, I can steal from this relative and no one's going to ever call me out on it. Call them out on it. Don't let them get away with it. If you like this video, be sure to click on a few others on our channel to see if there's other information that might be helpful to you about this same subject, or maybe even other related subjects that could assist you with your resolution of your issue.